Hey guys, I'm Calluna, and welcome back to the next Game of Thrones episode breakdown. We get a really cool reveal this episode, so let's dive into The Broken Man. Quiet Isle. We actually get a cold opening this episode, meaning a scene before the intro that isn't a previously on segment. We've only seen this a handful of times on the show. The first being the show's opening sequence, first revealing the Whites. The second in the Season 3 opener with Sam being chased by Whites and then saved by the Lord Commander. And finally, the opening to Season 4, where Tywin melts down Ned's greatsword, Ice. We see a group of people all getting along pretty well, building some sort of structure, and it seems really peaceful. Did I accidentally turn on The Hobbit by accident? And it turns out that these people have a guest we already know. Yep. The opening reveals that the Hound is alive and kicking. Anyone who made the Gravedigger predictions last week turned out to be correct. In the books, while on her quest to save Sansa, Brienne ends up going to the Quiet Isle, this secluded area in the Riverlands where penitent men go. There, she meets a man who tells her that he buried the Hound, though he does tell her the story of the Hound's life and why he took pity on him. There is a covered-up man who book readers suspect is actually the Hound, now taking on a life of prayer and abandoning his identity as the Hound. So, it would seem that the showrunners took elements from this sequence and put it in the show. The show doesn't specify where this location is, only that it's somewhere in the Riverlands. Brother Ray, the leader of this group of people, recounts how he found the Hound barely alive but managed to heal his wounds and took him in. The people here are all trying to find a place away from the war and live a life of peace. Ray and the Hound have a bit of a philosophical talk, the most important where Ray discusses how he isn't sure which god is the right god, and he even offers up the idea that maybe they're all one and the same. Ray says that the Hound lived for a reason, though he's not sure why. King's Landing. Man, they really like using that one set piece, huh? How many times have we been in here now? Anyway, Margaery seems to have really embraced a life of faith. In fact, a bit too much, since the High Sparrow comes to play matchmaker. Apparently Tommen is a bit unhappy that him and Margaery haven't had sexy time since she was released. Oh boy. Oh, and clever choice of passage to have Margaery reading from. It's a passage from the Book of the Mother, talking about the submissive and dedicated nature of a woman to her husband. Just as the High Sparrow tells Margaery a woman shouldn't have sexual desire, only patience. Lovely! More reason to hate this asshole. And, to add to that, he not so subtly tells Margaery her grandmother must convert or she's going to be in danger. Threatening the Queen of Thorns is not something to take lightly. Margaery goes to talk to Olenna, but of course Septa Unella is there, probably to make sure Margaery is still really with them, and just making sure not to give them any privacy. Olenna is outraged at Margaery's conversion, but Margaery manages to sneak a note to her while telling her to head back to Highgarden. Damn, really excellent acting from Natalie Dormer this episode. Really compelling. The note she sneaks to Olenna is a rose, the house sigil for the Tyrells. This is her way of telling Olenna that she isn't brainwashed, but merely doing what she must for now. Remember back when Olenna complained about all the roses? Their motto, growing strong, definitely seems to be coming into play here. It's just a matter of what Margaery is planning to do. This note is telling Olenna to have faith in Margaery. Wildling Camp. Jon, Davos, and Sansa arrive at the Wildling Camp, where they are trying to rally their forces to fight with them. Jon gives a pretty good speech to them, and with a bit of help from Tormund and One, he manages to secure the army. King's Landing. Again. Cersei goes to Olenna, wondering why she is leaving King's Landing. Cersei's few allies are all leaving her. Tommen has sided with Margaery and the Faith. Jaime has been forced to leave for Riverrun. And now her tenuous alliance with Olenna is gone. Nice to see Olenna not holding back and telling Cersei just how terrible of a person she is. You go, Olenna. Hopefully we'll get to see more of the paranoid and crazy side we see Cersei slowly falling into in the books in the rest of the season. Right now, her only allies are the Mountain and Qyburn. Wonder how long that's gonna last. Riverrun. The Lannister forces arrive at Riverrun and they find the Frey army doing a piss-poor job at sieging the castle. Walder Frey's sons threaten to kill Edmure if Blackfish doesn't surrender, but he calls their bluff and keeps the walls secure. Yay! Blackfish is my new favorite grumpy old man in the show. After a quick show of power and Lannister slapping that seems to be genetic, Jaime takes control and tells Bronn to set up a meeting with the Blackfish to discuss terms. Bear Island. And the trip through the north continues as Jon's group heads to Bear Island, the home of the Mormonts. We meet the head of the house, young Lyanna Mormont, who is extremely bright and doesn't let her age hold her back. Sansa and Jon both aren't successful at convincing her. Sansa's flattery not being useful here, and John's discussion of strength not entirely convincing either. Thankfully, Davos has success with being awesome with kids, and he realizes that they need to tell her the whole truth, not flatter her with words or tales of her family's strength. He informs her about the White Walkers, and is able to gain allegiance. Unfortunately, Bear Island only has 62 men to offer. It's interesting to see the power shifts here. Jon looks to Sansa first since she is most familiar with courtesies. When that doesn't work, they shift to Jon. Overall, though, they really need to work on their pitch more. You'd think they'd find time to practice as they travel between scene changes. River Run. Again. Jaime goes to parley with the Blackfish, underestimating him due to his old age. However, the Blackfish is more than confident that they can withstand the siege. Jaime is not too happy about this. He just wants this over and done with to get back to Cersei. Well, once other people make it to River Run, we'll see. Deepwood Motte. House Glover receives Jon's group at their stronghold of Deepwood Motte. If you remember way back in Season 2, Asha's men stormed their keep, and it wasn't until recently that the Glovers could retake it, thanks to the Bolton alliance. Robb didn't come to their aid, and they hold a bit of a grudge, and refuse fealty to the Starks because of it, and the fact that they're fighting with wildlings. Really could have done well with that Vale army, don't you think? Might have helped if you had more people to help join. Volantis. Asha and Theon's forces arrive in Volantis, drinking and having fun with some prostitutes. Theon looks a bit uncomfortable. Well, even more than usual. Asha can tell Theon is still having trouble in his head. He helped Sansa escape, and he tried to help his sister win the Kingsmoot, so now he's sort of lost his purpose. Asha tries to loosen him up by having him drink, but it isn't working. She tells him if he wants to die, then to do it here and there, but if not, she needs him by her side. This is enough to win over Theon, and Asha tells him her plan. Meet up with Daenerys like Euron proposed at the Kingsmoot. So it seems like Asha is taking pieces of Victarion Greyjoy's story in the books like I had predicted earlier. Euron sends Victarion as an emissary to Daenerys, though Victarion plans to court Dany himself rather than for Euron. So Asha stealing Euron's plan does keep in line with the book plot. I am really curious to see how Dany will treat them. Asha and Theon are near Winterfell in the books, so I have no idea how this will go down. The North. Davos has their men camp at a place Stannis had used, and we can see Davos' love for Stannis still shining through, though he tells them about Stannis' experience with commanding and leading an army. Though he does admit that the winter weather did have a large effect on the battle against the Boltons. Davos still doesn't know about Shireen, and where the hell is Melisandre this episode? I figured she wouldn't leave Jon's side now that he's her new Azor Ahai. They've only amassed a couple hundred men aside from the 2,000 wildlings, and Sansa isn't impressed by Davos, though his winning over Lyanna makes Jon have more trust in his advice. There's tension between the siblings about where to go for men. Honestly, I'm not really sure either of them know what the hell they're doing. I mean, I understand not wanting to work with Littlefinger again after everything he did, and she doesn't even know a quarter of the stuff he's actually really done. But it really doesn't make any tactical sense to not take 40,000 men offered to you. Sansa realizes that she needs those men after all, and sends a letter to Baelish asking for his help. Quiet Isle. Again. Brother Ray gives a sermon to his followers, talking about the life he led previously as a soldier, and very clearly telling the Hound that it's never too late to change. It seems like the Hound is actually starting to believe this when a few men on horseback show up demanding payment. They claim to be protectors of the land, and they are part of the Brotherhood without banners. Seems like the Brotherhood is becoming less noble than what we're used to. Well, in the books, Lady Stoneheart does make them a bit more bloodthirsty and vicious, though mostly just to the Freys and Lannisters, but generally the Brotherhood exists to save the common folk from raids. We've been hearing the Brotherhood's name dropped a couple of times this season, and my guess is this is why. Ray tells the men that they have nothing to offer them, horses, steel, or gold, though he does offer them food. The men don't take it and cryptically tell Ray the night is dark and full of terrors as they leave. Remember, Thoros, one of the leaders, follows the Red God. It's hard to say if they recognize the Hound or not, we aren't clear on this. The Hound didn't like that Ray offered peace so easily, though Ray retorts that he's done with fighting. Ray offers him supper, though the Hound just continues chopping wood. Braavos. Arya finds a sailor heading to Westeros and offers him gold for passage home. Then she decides to stare out onto the river in plain sight where anyone could easily find her, and oh hey, the wave shows up to stab her! We saw that old lady disguise on the wall in an earlier episode. Arya escapes and jumps into the river, but now she has several stab wounds. Ouch! She wanders the street of Braavos, wet and bleeding everywhere. So the fact that Arya wasn't killed immediately says a couple things. One, she's probably going to be fine, and two, The Waif was told to end it quickly and not make Arya suffer. Clearly, she was taking her time with killing Arya, so maybe that will come into play. Arya is the weaker fighter, and now is wounded, so she's definitely not going to be in the best condition to fight the Waif. I'm guessing Jaqen might get involved somehow, or maybe the actors. Quiet Isle. Finale. The Hound is finished chopping wood when he hears a scream in the distance. He runs back to Ray's camp, only to find everyone has been killed by members of the Brotherhood. Ray is even found hanging from the structure that they had been building in the beginning of the episode. Angry at the loss of his friend, the Hound grabs an axe and seemingly heads off to kill the Brotherhood members. It seems like the Hound really couldn't escape violence, which is sad because it seemed like he was finally starting to accept a peaceful life. So, we know why this episode is called The Broken Man. The episode devotes a large amount of screen time to telling us all about how the Hound is still alive and trying to change for the better. The episode devotes 11.5 minutes to his storyline, roughly 20% of the episode's running time. This could also refer to Theon's crisis of conflict and Arya's weakened physical state, but really, it's mostly just focusing on the Hound. The reveal of the Hound in the 3-act structure to his story was really solid and well done. It's such a shame that Ian McShane's Ray is killed because he's really charismatic and enjoyable. There were several other really strong moments for me. The reveal of Margaery's deception was really great. You could just tell from that one facial expression how difficult the strain of all of her acting is. And we got great sass in this episode from the Queen of Thorns and Lady Mormont. I'm a bit disappointed by a lot of the Northern conflict stuff. Some of it just seems really odd for characters, like Sansa's not taking Littlefinger's army only to then immediately ask for it again. I'm liking that we see Cersei just beginning to crack a bit now that her allies are mostly gone. I'm hoping we see more of that now that Jaime has been separated from her. Arya's storyline was so short that I was surprised it was even in the episode. I'm not worried about her character at all, so the stakes weren't even that high for me. Alright Starks, let's try to be better next episode. Preview. Cersei and her 2 allies confront Lancel's group of sparrows, and it seems we're finally going to see some fighting. Brienne and Podrick have made it to Riverrun, where it seems that Brienne is trying to convince the Blackfish to help Sansa and Jon in the north. But she's also talking to Jaime about possibly having to fight him should the Blackfish not surrender. But Jaime tells her he wants to get back to Cersei by any means possible, including killing all of the Tully forces. The Hound looks like he's found the Brotherhood, axe at the ready. Podrick is grabbed from behind by what looks like Bronn. Tyrion's former buddies are reunited? Tyrion stares at the roof, possibly because the dragons are landing on it with Dany returning? Cersei looks to be staring down, probably at the mountain attacking the sparrows. And finally, the Waif is chasing down Arya in the streets. The episode did have a number of cool reveals, the Hound, Margaery, and Lyanna Mormont, for example. But it also felt like a lot of setting up pieces again. We see Cersei is preparing for a showdown with the Faith. Maybe now is the time for her trial? Next episode seems to be promising quite a bit of fighting. The Hound versus the Brotherhood, Arya versus the Waif, the Mountain versus the Sparrows, and whatever the hell is supposed to go down at Riverrun. I expect the fight for Winterfell to be the closing to the season, so I don't expect that to be addressed much next episode. The Hound story really did drive this episode, and it was really compelling. So, what do you think will happen in the coming episode? Will Cersei's need for violence end up working in her favor or against her? What do you expect Margaery has in mind for a plan, or does she have one beyond just surviving at this point? Will the Blackfish go help Sansa, or will he stay at Riverrun? How will Jaime and Brienne react to their reunion? Why in the heck is Bronn grabbing Podrick? How do you expect Arya to escape the Waif? Will she manage on her own, or will outside help be needed? And will the Hound get revenge for the death of his friend? Post your thoughts and comments below. As always, I'm Calluna, and thanks for joining me on the latest Game of Thrones breakdown. See you guys in the next episode. Bye!
Geek Vision.